Welcome. So we're answering this multiple choice question before us, which says, which of the following will have an inverse function? Now, when it says which of the following will have an inverse function, we know that an inverse function only exists when the original function is 1-to-1. Now, how can we test whether or not a function is 1-to-1? That's when we use our horizontal line test. So what this question is really asking is which of these will pass the horizontal line test. That's really what it's saying. But you can see how it's kind of asking that in a roundabout way. It's saying which of these will have an inverse function. Well, we know that an inverse function only exists when a original function is 1-to-1, and a 1-to-1 function can be tested for by using the horizontal line test. So that's the thinking that's going on here. We then need to look at our multiple choice options and see what they have in common and how they are different from each other. And hopefully you can see that the graph for each of them is the same. It's just a truncus. So that is the same for each one. Well, what's different? What's different is the domain. The domain is different from each one. So the domain is different. So you need to be able to spot out what's the same and what's different between each of your options, because that's going to help us to quickly eliminate what can't be. So what we're first going to do is look at what is similar here and draw this for ourselves. So let's draw ourselves this really quickly. It does not need to be neat because it's just to help us get the answer. Now we know it's a truncus, but we need to figure out where the asymptotes of the truncus are going to be. To figure out where the vertical asymptote is going to be, remember, you take the denominator, you set it equal to 0, and then you solve for x. So that means x is equal to 5/2. So if I come over here and I draw in this line, that's going to be x is equal to 5/2 right there. It doesn't have any vertical translations. So that means that the horizontal asymptote will just be here. And we really don't have to worry about that one too much. We know that it's going to look like this, like that, and like that. That's what our truncus will look like. Okay, let's now go through each of these domains to figure out what we would have to restrict the domain to be in order to get a 1-to-1 function. Now, the first one is simply all real numbers. Now, if it is all real numbers, what that means is it's exactly as we've drawn it here. It's just from -infinity all the way to infinity. And as you can see, if I was to draw a horizontal line through this, I'm going to touch it twice. Therefore, A is out. It does not pass the horizontal line test. What about B? B is saying that we're going to restrict the domain from 0 to infinity. So where is x is equal to 0? Well, it's right here. It's at the origin. So that means we're not including that portion of the graph. Instead, we're starting here. Well, is this now a horizontal line? Does this now pass the horizontal line test? And again, no, because if I was to draw it here, I'm still touching it twice. So that's no good. So that means B is out. What about C? C is saying, what happens if you don't include 0? So in other words, what happens if we have an open circle there? Well, that still doesn't change very much, does it? Because we still can touch it twice by putting in a horizontal line. C is out. Okay, D. D is saying that x starts at 5/2, not including it. So that means that we're not including this part of the graph, but rather it's starting at 5/2, but not including it. And it can't actually include it because remember, we don't exist at 5/2. And as you can see now, if I'm only including this part of my graph, if I draw in a horizontal line, I'm only ever going to touch it once. That means D is my answer. Now, we can also eliminate E because it's going from -5/2. So it's actually, this is like testing if you've found the correct vertical asymptote. E is out. E is definitely out. E would look like this. If we would just clean this up for a second. E would be like we start like that. And this point right here would be -5/2. Well, as you can see, that's still not going to pass the horizontal line test. That's really testing whether or not you have correctly found your vertical asymptote. So D is the answer there. That's how to think through these questions. You have to be able to quickly think through these multiple choice questions to be successful in methods. All right, I'll see you in the next one.